Okay, I don't know, the sound didn't work, but if they can hear you, you're good. All right, everybody, how are we doing today? Awesome. Woo! Good morning, guys. Go with it, go with it.
It's noon, wake up.
Yeah. We are wrapping it up. Like I said to most of you guys, this is our final week and then we have a makeup session on Monday. So I really hope that we have pushed this business forward and you guys are seeing something from all of this hard work you've been putting in. So today we've got my friend Cassandra Jones in the house. Cass, how long have you been with KW?
22 months.
22 months, and she's already standing in front of you because she's got stuff to share with you. How many, what's your unit look like? Your units and volume?
So my first year was in April to December, I did 2. Last year I did 12, which was just over 3 million.
Pretty impressive, right? So
Yeah.
capped when?
This month.
Capping this month, right? This
So I'll
is-
have 4 more months on my own. That'll be my money.
Right, but yes, guys, give it up, give it up.
Because your cap goes from your anniversary date. It's not year to year, it's your anniversary. So my anniversary is May. So once I cap this month, then everything that I do until May is all my money.
All in that 22-month time frame. So why she's here today is one, because she's electrifying and she's awesome. And she loves to pour into others. And she did it in a short period of time, and so can you. Right? I look up to this lady. I think she's fantastic and I'm really proud of you. Oh, keep your tears to yourself. But I wanted to bring in all kinds of different instructors, all kinds of different ages from all different stages. And I think she handles this section really well as well. So give it up for Cass and let her take it.
So like Shanna said, Cassandra Jones, here's my information. I do go by Cassie, Cass, whatever you want. You can call me Cassie too, if you want. I'll answer to it. I've been doing this for 22 months after being in retail for over 30 years. Retail was a very abusive relationship with me, and finally it hit me one too many times and I left it. So at 50 years old, I started a whole new career and started doing this. And like a lot of you I've talked to, you thought, oh, I'm going to do this in a month and a half. I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to sell so many houses. It's going to be so easy. It's not anything that I thought it was going to be. How about you? It's a lot harder, isn't it? It's fun. It gives me the time that I want, if I want it, or I can put as much into it as I want to. So it's been really great. And it's been a really great way for me to heal from that abusive relationship that I had with retail, and become the me that I know that I am and I used to be. So that's been my reward from real estate. I can tell you too, in the beginning, I thought I had all the answers and I knew what I was doing and I wasn't listening to everybody else tell me what to do. I was like, no, I got this. I can do it. 2 transactions in 8 months tells you I did not know what I was doing. So then when I started listening to the other people and doing what they said to do, which is making the phone calls, making contacts, talking to people, talking to agents, then they started happening. And the more you do it, the faster it happens. So I can tell you for sure that it does work. Is it hard? Yes. Is it hard to pick up the phone? Yes. Do I have to do it daily and say, get on the phone and get going? Yes, every single day. I have to do just to get out of bed. I have to do that. So listen to what people are telling you, try it again, and then try it one more time and then do it again because it'll work. I'm proof of it. She said that, I'm electrifying. I'm just a little something, but I do want to be a bold coach. So in order to be a bold coach, I have to sell 75 transactions. So I have a long way to go, but she's given me the opportunity and the market center has given me the opportunity to get in front of people and start practicing this part of it. So when I get those 75 transactions, I can run right into it and be ready to go. This is a class, I am you, and I know it's scary to talk and say things out loud and answer questions, but I promise you'll get more out of it. If you're talking and you're interacting, you're gonna get more out of it. And if you have a question, I guarantee someone else has that same question. So if you can find that courage to ask it, you probably helped at least one other person, if not several people. And again, I'm you, I'm still learning, I'm still a part of this. And today is really about structure and making the offer and receiving the offer. So it's a lot, I'm gonna say it's more fun because it is learning something rather than talking to people and doing that scary stuff. So this will be a little bit more fun. So remember, ask those questions. I sent an email last night with the transaction that we're going to look at, a contract that we're going to look at, and asked if you had any questions. Do you guys have anything that you want to learn today that you already know that's just got to be in your head about anything that we've even talked about so far, all the way up to this point, or just when writing an offer or receiving an offer? Because I want to make sure we answer anything that's already sticking in your head.
I don't know that I know what else to ask at this point.
Okay. What is that? Oh, it's Shan's phone. She'll be back.
Ways to make your offer stand out.
Okay. I have really bad handwriting, sorry. Anything else? Those are really good ones. Anybody online have a question that we want to make sure we get answered? Okay, that's all right. If you come up with a question, make sure we ask it, like if we're not in the right spot, and we'll get it on the board so that we get everything answered today the way that we want to. Okay, let's see if I get this going. She said, oh, see, we had it going. This is what happens every time, and I wanted to prevent
That's
that.
why I try to stay close. You're good, you're good.
Oh, it's that, the mouse first,
Yep.
and then,
There you
okay, good. There we go. Okay, so and now also too, my first time teaching this. So I'm gonna be doing some reading, I'm gonna be doing some back and forth between yours and mine, so that I make sure I hit everything that we're supposed to do. So real quick though, I did want to find out, does anybody have any birthdays this quarter? Who has birthday January, February, March? Emmy, okay. When's your birthday?
March 16th.
March 16th. And how old will you be? I know ours is not asked lady, but you're young. so-
19.
19. That's amazing. I'm so proud of you for doing this at 19. I wanted to do it at 25 and I chickened out. So here I am, 25 years later doing this. So good for you. Just dig in and go. What great things have happened in the past week?
Great. It's been more downhill.
No.
It's been a lot of learning. So
Okay.
I've actually had to mutual release 2 contracts in the past week because of a few things. But I would say it's been great because of the learning curve with it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
And I had the same thing. My very first client was a mutual release that Dawn had to fire. It was ugly.
Gotcha.
Actually, wasn't even a mutual release. I fired him and then just got rid of him. But yeah, you do learn. It's painful. I cried a lot during that one in front of everybody. And so, but that is good. I'm glad you can see that. It is tough, but you can see it as a learning curve of who you want to work with, right? And how you want to work with them.
Right.
Anybody else have a birthday this quarter? Yes. What's your name?
Robert,
Robert. Okay.
I'll be 19 in February,
That's amazing. So how soon?
the 25th.
Okay. Very cool. Good for you. And are you on a team?
Yes.
Whose team are you on?
Tasha Driscoll.
Okay, good. Very cool. What kind of good stuff has happened to you this past week?
I've got a couple new buyers and then meeting with a FISBO next week.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Good, good, good. So has everybody been meeting with their accountability partners? How's that going? Tough? Easy? Not happening? It's hard, isn't it? Yeah. It's super important though, because you know, when you meet with your accountability partner, more things happen that day. You get more things done. And that's on both sides of it. So if someone's using you as their accountability and you're using them, it's adding double to the market because you're both getting up and getting going. So make sure that you're doing that. And maybe you don't have the right accountability partner. So don't be afraid to walk away, mutually release and find somebody else that maybe is ready for you and will help you do what you want to do, and you'll help them do what you want to do. So make sure you have those conversations. You're not ever stuck. I said earlier, we're doing make and receive offers. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what else to ask and ways to make your offer stand out. So anything else that you can think of as we're going through it, we want to make sure that we do that. Before we do that, the Y4C2Ts. Have you guys read these? You guys gone over them? What's your favorite? If you were to say you had a favorite in the Y4C2Ts, what would be your favorite?
Commitment in all things.
Yes. That's a big one. And it's huge, like it is so all encompassing, or it can be as small as it needs to be. Commitment in all things of your lead generation, or commitment in all things in your family, or commitment in, so it can be as big as you want it to be, or as small as you want it to be. And then you decide what that is, what that parameter is. I love that one too. Anybody else?
I think the communication, seek first to understand.
That's a really good one because you control the conversation when you ask the questions, but you come from caring, you come from curiosity, and the communication is there, so there's never anything that's in doubt. So super, super important. My favorite is probably teamwork, which is why I'm part of the coaching program. I'm not part of a team. I'm a single agent, but I like to be with other people. I don't have an office, so I come in and sit in the computer room all day long because I like being around other people. There's still collaboration that can happen. I can walk down the hall and ask somebody a question. So just because you're a single agent does not mean that teamwork isn't happening. We have all kinds of ways for the team to happen. And I just think that is super important because I can survive on my own, but I would rather thrive with others. So that one's super important to me. So today's process, you've seen this every single time, 16 other times. What we're gonna do, we're gonna go over the offer process. We're gonna prepare the offer. We're gonna write the offer. We're gonna present the offer. Then we're gonna receive and respond because that's a big one. Being able to understand the offer that's coming back in and then being able to dispense that information to your client. And then we're gonna do some recaps and ahas, and then we're gonna do our daily success system, which is gonna be making some phone calls, writing some thank you letters, sending some emails, and just anything else that we need to do to get you guys some leads and get you going in your process. Sorry, told you I have to go through this to see where I am. So by the end of the process, we're also gonna know how to buy or how to communicate with buyers, sellers, and your co-agent during the process. Understand the best practices for making and receiving offers in the market and start thinking about what you will learn today. Or to start thinking about what you learned today, let's consider what questions you might have, which we already did that with our questions on the board. Has anybody come up with any other ones to add real quick? Okay, it's all right. So, who wants to read this?
I'll read it.
Okay.
I like to think of sales as the ability to gracefully persuade, not manipulate, a person or persons into a win-win situation.
Right? And it can be easy to slide into that and not necessarily manipulate, but I'm trying to think of the word, trying to get them going into a different direction that maybe you think you want to go. I had the same thing happen this weekend, and I'll be full transparency. Client and I are looking at houses. There is one that he actually really likes. I don't like it. And I don't want him to buy it because I don't like it. What? Why am I deciding what he wants to buy? So I had to take a step back and like really go back in that conversation and say, okay, tell me again what you like about this house. Let's make sure, you know, and go through that. But I realized it like about an hour later that I was trying to change his opinion of the house, influence him to make a different decision because I didn't like it. And so it's really easy for that to happen because we've got opinions and we've got thoughts, but the win-win, it's for them. It's not, it's a win-win. Them, us, everybody that's involved in it. So be real cautious about that. So the next section is going to be the offer process. So there we go, good. So this is the offer process, simple as pie. The buyer makes the offer and then the seller can respond in 3 ways. They could counter the offer and then we have to go through negotiation. They could accept the offer and then we go straight to contract to close, or they can reject the offer. But that doesn't mean it's over. So just because we get a rejection does not mean we have to end that conversation. So make sure we get with the listing agent to find out if there's anything else that we could have done. And have that conversation with them, and we'll kind of talk through that. But that's the steps of the offer process. There's a lot inside it, but that is the steps that we need to make sure that we know. Has anybody written an offer? I know you have had, right? You were under contract, and Dustin, you have,
I've written one and
Okay.
accepted.
and accepted, and then you have?
Yes.
Okay, and you? You've written one? Anybody had any offers rejected? Okay, and what did you do?
Well, I was working with like buyers for a long time, so it was the same buyer, but like there was just multiple offers and
Okay,
we just didn't have the highest offer.
okay. Did you call and find out and make sure that's what it was, or,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, and all the time they usually called me too.
Oh,
or
good.
I'd text them and say, hey, like, it's like, oh, we didn't accept your offer because we got a cash offer or something.
Okay, okay,
Cash offers are hard.
yeah, it is. Emmy, what about yours?
Oh, I thought about it. It wasn't a rejection.
It wasn't a
Not
rejection.
relevant, but-
Okay. Should have been a rejection, but I learned from it. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially last year, those of you who are still a little bit newer, last year, there were a lot of offers. There were 10, 12, 15 offers coming through. Sometimes we didn't even get a rejection letter. We just showed up on MLS and we saw it was pending. But what can we do at that point? What if someone loved that house and we got on there and we found that it was pending? What could we do? Backup offer. Yeah, exactly. Call the agent. Are you accepting backup offers? Because you're working for your client, especially if you know they love it. Like, that's the house I want. That's the one I want to be in. Things happen. People's finances are falling through. They'll go and buy a car in the middle of it. Their credit score changes. They get a divorce all of a sudden. So many things can happen. You want to be prepared. So if they love that house, a backup offer is ready to go. So just because it was rejected doesn't mean it's a hard no. So we want to make sure we stay up on top of that. I know we haven't talked about a whole lot so far, but any ahas? That's okay. I'm okay with that because it just talked about me so far. So you found out I like red. I like the Chiefs. I'll be in red every day this week. So on your next page, you're going to see the prepare and offer checklist, which is amazing to help you through that process. Number one, ensure the property is still available. Why would we do that?
No point wasting your time if it is.
Right. Or, I mean, you also want to make sure that they know that you're getting ready to send an offer, because an offer shouldn't be coming in blind. So call them, is the house still available? But again, if it's already gone pending, then maybe I don't want to make an offer, or are you taking backup offers? But let your client know immediately. So find out immediately, because it has happened, and especially in this market. I had one last week again, that we were looking at a house, he loved it, loved it, loved it. It was above his price point, so he was gonna put some cash into it. Called, what kind of response have you had? I have a full price offer. Okay. We're gonna decide tomorrow. Okay, do you have any contingencies? They didn't, we did. So that does make our offer look a little bit worse, but okay, we're working on this. It went under contract that night. They actually went ahead. So had I went home and started writing that offer, writing an offer takes me an hour easy. I don't know why it still takes me so long, but it does. So that time of doing it, making sure it's right, the stress of making sure you've gotten everything right was wasted. So make sure you find out before. Build rapport with that listing agent. Again, so we've called, is it still on the market? Are you still accepting offers? This is a way that you can make your offer stand out. You're creating a relationship with that other agent, and knowing that you're going to be the person that they're working with, and you are going to be easygoing, you know what you're doing, you are going to have a clean offer. It makes a big difference, especially if you get into a multiple offer situation. So that's one of the ways that you can have your offer stand out, is by building that rapport. And you want to gather information from them about the seller and what they're looking for. What kind of questions could we ask the listing agent about the seller, the property, that helps us with our offer?
What are the seller's motivations?
Yeah. And if they're allowed to release that, you know, they have to check that box. They can tell us that, so that can help us. What else would that tell us with motivation?
What you could put basically in the offer to them that would help you get it.
Exactly. What are those things that we could ask that would help the offer? Timeline? Do they need 30 days? Do they need 60 days? You know, do they need a contingency to buy a home? Are we going to be easygoing with that? Are we gonna be working with them on that? Do they have a preferred title company? Do they have anything that they don't wanna leave? Or they have something they do wanna leave and maybe you don't want it either, but you'll let them leave it, like a trampoline or a swing set, something that eases their burden and gets you the home. So those are a lot of different questions that you can ask to help get as much information about the property. Ask about the activity. We don't want to go into this blind when we're making an offer. We don't want to come in, when the market started shifting, people were still offering 10 over. They were still, I think they're still doing it now. Sometimes you do, sometimes some properties will create that buzz, but you need to know what's going on. Don't do that blindly. Ask, how many people have come through? How many offers do you have? So you're gonna be able to create the best offer for your client. Ask about the offers. We just talked about that. Ask about the other offers on the property and the status. Some will give you everything. So ask every question you can think of. How much? What are the terms? What would I need to do to beat it? Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't give you anything. Sometimes they're gonna say, send me your best and final. Okay, we can do that too. But ask those questions. You'll never know if you don't ask. And a lot of times they'll tell you everything, which is great. We talked about the motivations and the needs. So we've already talked through that. Ask the agent how they want the offer submitted. Would they like it? This is really nice because again, this is working toward the seller or the selling agent and their likes and how they want to work. So would you prefer a single PDF? You know, we can send every single document in one single PDF. We can fax it if they'd like. There are some faxers out there. Do you want it through the Dotloop, DocuSign? How do you want me to send this to you? Do you want me to text you every single page? I'll do it. You know, whatever it is, ask them how they want it. Obtain the buyer's pre-approval from the lender. So this is when you're prepping for your buy side, make sure you have your pre-approval. Are we gonna write an offer without a pre-approval letter? No, it's not gonna go through. But why would you write an offer if you have no idea whether they can actually purchase the home? So we want to make sure we have that pre-approval letter. Review the MLS and tax records, so you have that ready for your client. Prepare a comparative market analysis, a CMA. Are you guys doing CMAs for your buyers? Hopefully lots of heads.
You should be.
Yeah.
I'm still sitting back here.
Yeah. It's good practice for your listings when you get your listings, but B, again, it makes sure that you are not overbuying, you're not overdoing it, or you're not underbuying. So if there's something comes in and you're like, oh my gosh, this is actually a really good deal, you know, and see where they are. And then generally, if it's a really good deal, that means we're gonna have multiple offers. So knowing your numbers is huge. And that way you can also give that number to your client, because your client may come in and what do they want to do? Offer 30 under. Well, it's priced right. It came on the market 2 days ago. Are we going to win at 30 under? Probably not. Are we going to tell them? Yes. Do they still want to do it? Yes. Are we going to write it? Yes. But we're going to give them all the information so that they can make the most educated guess possible. A lot of times too, I will, and other agents will do this, I will call the agent first and say, hey, this is where we are. Is this even in the realm of possibility? And if it's not, tell your client, it's not in the realm of possibility. Do you want to come up? And if they don't, it may not be the house, because we already know it's going to get rejected. If it's 30 under, 40 under, or 5, whatever it is. So have those questions, and you've already built that rapport, so you're going to be able to do that. Obtain the seller's disclosure statement and other documents needed. What other documents might we need for an offer? What other offer would we pull? Or what other documents would we pull that we're gonna send with an offer?
Lead-based paint,
Lead-based paint?
I don't know when the house was built.
Exactly.
We always pull the MLS itself and have them initial it so they know what they are.
Good.
Everything on there is listed as what they're.
It's already on there.
Mhm.
What about measurement disclosures? So when you send that offer, send everything with it like you are going under contract. Because we don't want to send an offer, go under contract, and then start chasing papers. And if you don't do it, they think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be chasing papers. I might not take this offer. So send everything with it. Send your offer, your pre-approval letter, your, all of your disclosures, whether they're LBP, sellers, measurement, well, septic, all of those disclosures need to come across. So send everything like you are going under contract today. Everything is ready to go, because you want to make it as easy as possible for them. Okay, so we're gonna do just a quick activity. Get together, and that's what we've talked about. I want you guys to come up with more questions so you could dig deeper to be able to write the best possible offer. More questions that you can ask the seller's agent to dig in and work with your client to create the best offer that you can possibly get for your client. Okay, so just a couple minutes, get together, come up with a couple of different questions, make noise. Now you can make noise.
I'm still very new to all of this. Very good. Got back to this license in November, and pretty much last month is whenever I really started kind of digging in. So it's,
Holly, I just saw your response. That's perfect.
So I've written
I have, I've written it for you, but they're in the beginning. I think they had quite a few rejected.
Online, guys, if you could write some responses too, that would be great. We could share them.
It's a solid officer, so kind of like give you a ballpark, so like, that's what I do.
Last year I had some bridge. And Mike.
Yeah.
They had, I think they went through. Basically, get all of the details, but basically, you know, very little that they would ask, and kind of sell us concessions, all of that.
Yes, I know.
No, this was like 7 years ago.
So what are some more questions that you think?
Ended up selling for full price. So I paid $8
And I put all of that in
And I thought, you know,
one email, and then I look at my shoulders, and I'm like, okay,
and I was
so
on
and
my.
so, you know.
Thank you.
And so we're just taking that time.
How much? That was one of them. How much repairs, because that would probably be some of those concessions. So then, like, would they be willing to cover versus what the buyers?
Because they're not gonna get any offers coming in between, probably between the last 6 months.
It's been like 12 years.
I know, that's like.
I just think that we are already kind of into work.
I thought But I think it could be a question like. hey,
Whatever.
those are like price reduction.
If it's contingent on the sale of the house, I think that's.
Yeah. Especially if you- I think you don't have, loan program is established by like what house it is, what county it is, like the inspections, everything. Certain loans won't use certain houses. So that's not it, right? The sellers, like, they won't have like, oh, I won't accept this type of loan.
Well, it'll make your MLS listing, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Say if it's in town and go cash convention, I'm just saying.
Or SBA.
You know, it could go, like, when it goes, if it goes FHA, then it goes.
Good, my open house was not.
And then you gotta go back to the summer and say, you know, you got items 1, 2, 3, and 4, for example.
Experience. Well, and that's the best thing. Right now. That's not a question.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
First time.
We had two of mine on Saturday, and I had two agents in training and I pulled in.
Yeah.
And so we pulled the people, and actually it was funny, I was all the agents had a friend.
And then the first thing I'll ask is.
Honestly, don't know what you
So it's like. we had-
I was just surprised.
And be able like.
Oh, that's cute. I did a 3-hour one.
Worst case scenario. Right. Right.
Well, and maybe
The
what you
wild
could
card.
say is, okay,
So I see that
Because I was just me, my lender was sick.
Yeah.
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 I got
Yeah.
three.
Kind of, yeah.
Or if there's like something
If I
else
give
like
you
there's
some
concern.
conversation.
And like I
Because they
care,
come out. Usually I try to confirm like
with your client.
something else, because that day we had chiefs, everybody had chief stuff on, so we talked about, and we wander, and then you come back and talk. And then once you've had a conversation.
I am too, and I mean, we've gone out and I can't really take it time when
They
I've.
won't even know something, we're going to get all out. They're.
And then send it, and then if I work.
It's a little maybe like I had an instruction.
I like kind of went. But.
All right, sounds like we have just about wrapped up. Who has some good questions that you can share? And you guys take notes, write these down, because these are gonna be things that you're gonna want to incorporate in your conversations with your seller's agent. What do we come up with?
Closing costs, earnest money and loan programs.
Perfect, yep. And what do you mean by that? Just so everybody knows.
Loan program, whether it's FHA, USDA, VA, just how long the closing process is gonna take.
Okay.
And then earnest money, just, you know, just show if someone's really interested or not, like if there's a contingency on selling another house or something like that. And then closing costs, whether they want sellers to pay part of that, or they're gonna pay all of that, or sellers pay all of it.
Perfect, good. Those are good ones. Yes.
So we came up, like if there's any repairs in the works and home warranty, if there's a home warranty in place.
Perfect, good, good. Because that is happening. I don't know if you guys have looked on the MLS. I've seen several come off the market because roofs are getting installed. Because houses are not selling because the roofs are 20 years old, as well they should not. Last year they were, this year they're not. So that's something that we want to make sure that we know. We go on a house and, oh, it was built in 2002, it's still pretty new. It still has the same roof. It's 21 years old. So those are really great questions. Or are they open to it? Are they open to a roof conversation? Because if they're not even open to the roof conversation, and your client's like, I gotta have a roof, may not happen. Or you tell the client and see where they are, but really gauge that, because if they gotta have a new roof and they say, oh, we'll try and see if maybe they'll give us a new roof later. Okay, are you okay with them saying no later? We can still get out because we've got inspection clauses and things like that, but do we want to take those 15 days not looking on the market for another house that already meets their needs? So ask those questions in advance. What else did we get? Those are really great questions.
I think Dustin had one.
That is so awesome.
So, mine would probably be like, how long they've owned it, cause like, that kind of makes me think it leads into other, questions like if they know much about the house or not, and some other stuff.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about the disclosures in just a second, but I think that's a great, do you know whether they've done maintenance on it? Do they have a schedule? Do they do their filters? Those kinds of things. And you're just gathering information. Remember, communicate to seek information. That's what we're doing. We're not accusatory. We're not, trying to find blame. We're just really trying to find out so we can make sure that the client is fully informed. Yes, sir.
Will you find a lot of that from an inspection?
You will.
I know this is a good thing to ask those questions, but still, is it worth having an inspection done?
I would say it's still worth having an inspection because buyers are liars and sellers are too. But I think if someone's doing it, it's gonna be pretty evident and they're gonna know. Someone has a contract with the pest control company. Somebody has night heating come out every single year. They're gonna know. And those are just good information. It doesn't mean it's not worthy to buy. But it's good information to have, especially if you have somebody who is that way. So if you have a client that needs to know that everything has been done, better to know now than the inspection when you find out they haven't changed an air filter in 6 years. And we were told that, yes, it was. So it's just good questions to get information about. But yeah, your inspection is going to tell you a lot. Sometimes too much, we know. But it's just ways to get more information and more clarity. And then hopefully it helps their seller too, because those are the things that they should be thinking about. Their agent should have been having them prep for that. Any other good ones that we want to share? Nope. Okay. Anybody online have one? Let's see if they pop one up there. So that's that next part of the session. Any ahas so far? Oh, we gotta push them out. Oh, there we go. Any ahas?
Basically asking questions.
Really, you can find out so much information by asking questions. Helps your negotiation process. It helps your buyer clarity process. And that information is there unless it's privileged information. But generally, you're gonna get that information. They're gonna tell you. So absolutely ask questions and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
I think another aha I got when you were talking is that you're really setting expectations with your client as you're asking them questions on their deal breakers and whatnot, and about the roof. I thought that was a really good point of now I'm setting you up for how this is actually going to play out,
Right.
and then what happens if it doesn't.
Right. And that's actually leads us perfectly into the next step of it. So we're gonna get to that seller's disclosures in just a second, but the first step, now we're gonna be writing the offer. So we're prepped the offer. Who thought it was gonna take this long? We're gonna prep for the offer and now we're gonna write the offer. So the first thing is price and terms. Now, do we feel comfortable with the price and terms right now? How many feel comfortable pretending like we've asked all those questions? And why are you comfortable?
I would have to do a CMA first.
Well, we've already done it.
Oh, okay.
Remember, that was step 12.
Okay.
Yep.
Then yes, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we're ready to have a price. We're ready to recommend a price to our buyers because we've done the CMA, we've asked the questions, we know the terms because we've asked the seller where they want to close, how soon they need to close, do they need earnest money? Are they going to do any, are they willing to pay any concessions? We already know all that because we've asked those questions. So we are super confident when we know that dollar that we're going to put into that contract. So the next one is the seller's disclosures. And like Shannon just said, know the deal breakers. So make sure you're reading those disclosures and seeing what you can on there. Now, what do we do if the buyer elects to not disclose any other information besides the top 4? So it's blank all the way down, except for meth and lead and, I don't, they don't say, I've already forgotten. I just know they have to be answered.
The wayside.
Oh, yeah, is it a waste site? Some of them are, and they don't tell you, but
You can always go back to the history.
absolutely, that's great. Go and see when the last time it was sold and pull up the documents from then. You'll find out how old the roof is, and you go back a little bit further and find wherever you can, get some information from it. So it may take 3 transactions to find out that this 2000 or this 1971 house, the last roof was in 1988. It may take a long time to get there, but you can. But you can still ask the seller's agent. Remember, we can ask those. So find those things out before we say it's a deal breaker. I don't know how old this is. When we walked through it, we looked at it, we looked and see if we could see how old it was. Is it one from the 40s or is it, one that's got PVC pipes in the HVAC? But ask those questions, but find out what the deal breakers are. Is 10 years old too old for a roof? Is 20 years old too old for an HVAC? What are those deal breakers that they are concerned about? Is the HOA? Make sure they know there's the HOA in there. So make sure that they see everything that you can get from that disclosure. A gas stove. Gas stoves, cooking stoves can be deal breakers. So make sure we know that. We don't want to walk in on gas stoves, they should have already seen that, of course, but that's there. So conveyances, we talked about that just a minute ago. What's a conveyance?
Something that comes with the property.
Yes, yep. So what are they going to transfer with the home? So if it says in the MLS, the swing set and the hot tub are staying. Is that all we need? What do we need to do if we want to keep that swing set in the hot tub? It's got to go in the contract. I'm not teaching a contract class here, but this is conveyances, so we'll talk about it. There is an inclusion and exclusion line right after we go to the pricing, and includes the hot tub and the swing set at no value. Includes the refrigerator at no value, whatever it is. And just because it says it's on, if it doesn't say it's on the MLS and you see it and you want it, you can negotiate that. Of course, I probably would have asked first, because you don't want to go into that one blind either. Hey, are they willing to part with that swing set? Oh, yeah. At no value. And then exclusions again. There's a swing set and you don't want it. Absolutely, I do not want this swing set in my house. First, we got to find out that they're okay with taking the swing set out. And then we're going to exclude it. Because we don't want that to be the deal breaker. We don't want excluding the swing set because they don't want to pay someone to come take it apart and get it out of the place to be the deal breaker of the sale. So we're going to find that out first, but we've got to exclude it, because if we don't exclude that swing set in the contract, that swing set's going to be in your backyard. So it's got to be in there.
Can I add something to that really quick?
Yes, of course.
One thing that I think I learned my biggest lesson in conveyance, killing a deal, is with a nightly rental. Not taking into account that it is important on a nightly rental condo in Branson that the bedding, the linens, the TVs, the furniture, the things in the kitchen, those things stay with the property. So it's really important if you're dealing with an investment property like that, that you ask what conveys and what doesn't.
Mhm. And you can have an addendum or an exhibit A, and everything's got to be on there.
And I know that's in the weeds, but that was probably my biggest takeaway from conveyance.
Because if you tell your client that everything stays and nothing's there when you get back, you're furnishing a house. I do not want to make that mistake. I can't furnish my own house. I don't want to furnish someone else's. So it's got to be in the contract. And if you've been in Jim and Don's classes, and hopefully you have, if it's not in the contract, it doesn't exist. So it's got to be there. Exclusion and inclusion. Earnest money. What's earnest money? What do we like to call earnest money?
Good faith money.
It's good faith money, skin in the game, right? For a long time, it didn't exist, and then it did, and then it didn't, and then who knows? But you ask the seller, I haven't put earnest money down on a house. My last 2 houses, I didn't put earnest money down. The one before that I did. It wasn't necessary. You're buying a house? Okay, let's go buy a house. Now it's kind of coming back again. So ask the seller, is it necessary, you know, do they want earnest money? And have your client be prepared for that, that they may need 500, 1,000, whatever it is, see what their requirement is. So I'm gonna read this real quick, just so we make sure. The buyer makes a deposit to the seller to show good faith in the transaction. The earnest money is typically deposited in an escrow account that is jointly held on behalf of the buyer and the seller. Okay, do we hold on to the check? And just keep it until the end of the month and then hand it over? No. And why do we not do that? Why does it have to go to the deposit place? Your title company?
So it doesn't get commingled, right?
Because what?
It doesn't get commingled?
It doesn't get commingled. We're not allowed to commingle. But if earnest money is in the contract is not executed until that money is deposited. So if you have 5 days to get that money into the title company and you go on the 6th day, the seller could have hopped out of your contract and it's over. So you want to make sure you get that in there just as quickly as possible. And that can be, they hand you the check and then you run it over and do it, but then now you're responsible for it. If you're not taking care of that way, you're calling them. Today's the last day. You've got to get over there. The money's got to get in there. Also, and I think this is right. Another offer can come through and they can take it during that earnest money time, right? Does that sound right?
Do that one more
If
time.
we have a 5-day earnest money and they have another offer come
Yeah.
through, if the money's not in there, they can take another offer.
Because they can kill that contract.
They can kill that contract because it is not an executed contract. It is not ready to go until that money is there because we set it. If there was an earnest money attached to it, the contract's ready to go. So that's the other part of earnest money. So there's a couple of ways, and when you teach that class, Dawn and Jim will show you all the ways that people can get out of these contracts. So we want to make sure that we bulletproof them. Due diligence and inspection period, what is that?
Imagine title searches, all of that type of thing.
Yeah, so we've got like the data days, which generally is 5 days if you don't put anything else in the contract, where they could look up the school district, they could look up the boundary lines, anything that they came up with during that time that they decided, the taxes, maybe the taxes were wrong. During that 5 days, if it's on there, they can walk out of the contract. Last year, we were doing 0 because that would help bulletproof the contract. We're not gonna walk, this is not a spot that we're gonna walk out. So we are in this contract right now. And then you've got your inspection process. So we want to find out how long we need for that inspection process. Generally, Jim and Dawn teach us 15 days because it takes a little bit sometimes for them to get out. When we were so busy, it was taking forever for them to get out. Not so bad now, but we still need time. And that means in 15 days, the inspection needs to happen. We need to have the conversation with our clients and we need to get the inspection notice to the seller. That has to happen in those 15 days. So we need to know how much time we need. So can we do it in 10 days? 10 seems really fast. Seems super fast because what happens if I have a 10-day inspection and it's day 11 and I haven't sent it?
You're buying a house.
You're buying a house. You're buying a house as is. After your 15 days or 10 days, then there's another 10 days to come to a resolution. And so you negotiate back and forth. But if you don't send the inspection notice before day 10, you bought a house. The only other way out is financing. So now at that point, that's your last ditch is financing. Time for seller acceptance. So this is like the very last line of the contract. When do we need this offer responded to? Is this important? Yeah, super important because we don't want it just hanging out there. We don't want that offer sitting there and they're like, oh, this is kind of nice, but we'll see if somebody comes in and beats it. Do we want to write the offer at noon and tell them we need it at 6 tonight? No. How long do you think is a good time frame for an offer?
24 hours.
24 hours. Could be a little bit faster if it's a little bit hotter market. You might give them 12 or 15 hours. If you send it at 6 o'clock on Friday night, it could be noon the next day. Because if they're not going to take it, we got to move on. And that gave them a whole morning to look at offers. And if you as a seller's agent can't look at an offer in between 8 and noon and tell yours, we're not doing a good job. So that's okay. So kind of gauge that, ask around, say, what do you think? Look at this house. I think there's 3 offers on it. How soon should I make this offer? Or how soon should I ask for a response? Because we don't want to underdo it, but we don't want to overdo it. A little bit of time frame in there. I guess you could, of course, ask them. How quickly are you going to be responding? So there's another question. How quickly will you be responding to offers? Are you going to look at all of them at 5 o'clock? Are you going to be looking at them as they come? Because as they come and you send it at noon or at 8, they could respond by noon if they're looking at them as they come, because you want them to take that offer. I just gave you a really good offer. Do you really want to risk nothing else coming in? So ask those questions. And then the financing terms. Make sure that you know what your financing terms are. Are you doing a VA loan? Do you have that extra, that document, that rider for the VA loan? Is the house going to go VA? Make sure you're knowing all of those things and you're ready to go. The next part of the offer checklist is the buyer pre-approval letter. We talked about that earlier. We've got to have that. Closing date, we should already know that because we've asked them what is best for the seller and that works for the client as well. Home warranty, we've talked about that. Home warranties are getting very popular again because again, we're not in that as is world and we're not selling in 2 minutes. So don't be afraid to ask for those things. Talk with the seller's agent and see if they're amicable to that. It's $500. I like it because it makes me, I feel like I'm putting good things back out into the world when I buy something like that for someone else. That just makes me feel good. So sell it that way. Repair limits. If applicable in your area at this point in the process, focus on the items the buyer is most interested in repairing. Bear in mind the law, lending regulations. Now, of course, these are for things that we know. These are things that we know. And if there is something in that you see, like the railing, the banister railing is broken. We need to ask for that to be fixed in the contract because what if the inspector misses it? Because if the inspector misses it, we can't ask for it. So if there are things that you see or broken windows, ask for them. Because we are not guaranteed that they're going to see those things in the contract. You would hope they would. But we need them to also know that we're going to expect you to fix these windows. Because that's a non-negotiable. And those things are out there. I mean, even on new homes, there's a broken window. Someone hit a baseball through the window. It just happens. But know what our repair limits are and what our boundaries are. Special clauses or contingencies, what would those be? Special clauses is probably confusing a little bit. What contingencies might there be in our transaction, in our contract?
Selling of another house.
Yes, selling another house and closing another house. So there's actually 2 different contingencies you can have there. You can have selling, which means it's not under contract, and closing, which means it is under contract. So those are actually 2 very different contingencies. What else?
Appraisals.
Appraisal contingency. Mm-hmm. Anything else? I think that's it. Trying to think if there's anything else that's listed as a contingency. Loan. The loan contingency, that the loan actually goes through. So if the loan falls apart, then you're not obligated because that is, if you put that as a contingency, you have to put it as a contingency. If you don't, then it won't be. And then addendums, be sure to include all addendums required by your market. And that might be like your exhibit A, like the furniture is coming in, anything that's extra that you don't have enough room on that contract. And generally for an addendum, it would be something that's changing the contract later. So if you're changing a closing date or something like that, but in the beginning of the contract, you wouldn't really have any. Okay, let's see. Okay, so now you have your contract in front of you. I've written a contract. I'm buying a house at 123 Happy Street. Get back into your groups. And I want you to write the bullet points of the contract. So have someone be your note taker and write down the bullet points of the contract that I've written in. Okay, and then Chris Locke said online, have a conversation with the inspector prior to with the inspector prior to the inspection on what your clients you see, so it gets in the report. So that fixes that other part of it. But if you know for sure you want those windows fixed, and that's a deal breaker, put that in the contract. But like you said, if you like, oh, let's make sure he sees that, of course, talk to your inspector. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, Cassie.
Yes.
How do we know the limit that the seller can give to the buyer as far as repairs go? Did I miss? How am I supposed to? Just talks about the law.
Oh, I don't know that we necessarily have a law. I think sometimes they're talking about, there may be states that affects how much money they put down, like with the VA loans have 4%, and maybe that affects it, but it doesn't really with us. Yeah, so law wise, it's just, are they willing to spend 10,000? Because sometimes that's it. They have a $10,000 budget and they'll spend whatever they can spend 10,000. All right, thank you.
The fridge.
So we're just going
I think she's meaning like.
The preferred, was that, then that, I'm assuming it's the preferred.
Yeah.
Surveys are big as zero.
I did zero looking surveys on anything.
Yeah, but you know what?
I just want to remove.
Yeah.
Every camper.
We're trying to figure this out. What do you want to, what do you want from us?
Find what are the bullet points about the contract?
Oh, so.
Yeah, so
which is it? Oh, like all the
Yeah,
important.
all the important
Got it.
pieces, the bullet point, yeah, and that'll make a little bit of sense, because yes, it's the email. So we're probably,
I know.
there's two files of this. So you need to be able to pull out all of that important information every single time. So when you're receiving or when you're sending, you gotta have the information. So just for clarification, we're pulling out all of the pertinent information to the contract, all the things that are important to the seller that you're offering, and then we're gonna go backwards and we're gonna do it as a receiving. So we're gonna, like, we're the seller, how we're going to present it. So you're pulling out all the important parts of the contract so that we don't miss any of it.
Closing.
I would say all three of
As
those.
a seller, I was in the Richmond. when we-
So we're a buyer right now. So we're writing the contract. And so you are pulling out all of the points of the contract. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna email the points to the seller in just a minute.
Okay.
But you need to be able to pull out every single bullet point. And we'll talk about why every single time. And I'm gonna promise you, it's easy to miss them. Because I have gone through and accepted an offer and went, oh my God, I don't know if. And then pray that it's okay, because I forgot that. So being able to pull out every single part of it that we need to have for, because now we're writing it. You're the buyer's agent, and you're pulling all the pertinent information out. Because we're gonna, I'll tell you what, we're gonna send an email that bullets all that.
So whatever I.
And we're gonna make it super easy for that seller.
Just strike the last.
Super.
Like
You wanna be
honestly,
the
what's
best person
included, what's
they ever.
excluded.
Yeah,
That's huge.
yeah.
What about
Yeah. Sometimes it
Rice,
is.
295?
That's
Should we just write this somewhere?
Yeah, there's lines, pretty much everything, like so.
I don't usually say the title company. I feel like we should read that. Maybe I should.
Maybe you should.
Does everybody online have a copy of the
Yes.
contract? If not, I can email it over to you real quick.
Wait, which number is that one? On the first page? Yeah.
You said.
Give the seller the right to.
You don't think I can do anything else on that page, do you?
Maybe that it's like conventional, like the type one.
Gotcha.
Source disclosures.
What are we gonna do? I'm just gonna read it from school. We can read it. Teams.
Cause I was gonna say June thing.
I would make it up to them.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
Wait, wait,
No,
what's
legally,
the-
I would not tell everybody to do it. It's cool.
Where's the time for
So I haven't really gone through these, so I'm trying to kind
title
of.
survey? It's like, I don't know. It's not really important, but I do want to know, it's like, we do 50/50.
It's
or like a
on
few
page
bucks.
3.
Yeah. We probably should include more stuff, try to just do like the basic.
My first listing ever was a very small listing. and
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention.
But they did receive. the-
Yeah, they deal with
disclosure.
Honestly, like,
Cause they're offered and I didn't think anything of it.
yeah, no, yeah.
And actually, it was a really small listing, so.
Mhm.
Okay, well, where's the time of acceptance? for this, and like just noise and actually like a lot.
Yeah, Happy Death Days, I think is huge to me.
Continues.
If there's like a reason, that I'm putting that in there, definitely have the right to walk. The limitation.
I have used so many things in this class. Workers' compensation is probably obvious, but
It's always stuff I've put in there.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Probably not.
so. They didn't define how long they're gonna be.
Yeah.
Okay, do we feel pretty comfortable? We got it all? Okay. So now we are going to present the offer. Okay. So we're gonna double check before we send. Make sure that we have all of our documents, which is our, I've gone blank. Any writers that we have, any disclosures that we need to have, our pre-approval letter, send all of those documents the first time. Also make sure that you put them on the email. I don't know how many times I've sent an offer and no offer. So that happens. Usually I'll send that little meme afterward with the airplane that leaves all the passengers. But yes, I am a good agent, I promise. I just can't attach things. I just don't know how. Make sure you're following the instructions from the listing agent as well. And we should have already had those conversations. But make sure that we're following the instructions correctly, all as one PDF, separate documents, or you doing it through DocuSign, however you're going to do it. Be sure all documents are clearly labeled. Is everybody using Command? As new agents, you probably are. You can change the name of every single one of those documents, and you should. So like the base document is the form and it's the sale contract. It should say Jones and then like address Jones, Happy Street, contract. Or Jones, Happy Street, seller's disclosures, or whatever it is. So make sure that you're labeling because it makes it easier to find. Plus it makes it easier for them to find whenever they're downloading it, because they're gonna download it, they're gonna have it in their transactions, and they're gonna have to send it to their compliance people. Again, remember, make it easy. Make it easy for everybody. Order the documents logically, whether sent as a single document or multiple documents. So that's just contract, addendums, disclosures, buyer or the pre-approval letter. Don't send the pre-approval letter first and then the disclosures and then, you know, try to make it, again, as easy as possible. You want this person to work for you. You are representing your client. And then the next one is email the summary. So we're gonna send the contract, we're gonna send everything, but I was telling Isaiah, we're gonna bullet point in the email what the offer states. Because we just gave them a way to tell their client everything in the contract. They're gonna look at the contract hopefully and make sure that, yes, I was correct, I got everything in there. But we gave them a super easy way to tell the client everything that we just did, rather than line by line going, okay, it says 195, it says this, you know what I mean? It's all there. So as you guys were going through, what are our bullet points? What are we gonna say is our contract that I just wrote?
What we're including.
Tell me what we're including.
We're including the refrigerator and Ring doorbell at no value.
Mhm.
And then we're gonna exclude the swing set.
Good. And are we gonna put the price?
$295 for the price, $3,000 for the seller's
Yep.
concession, and $15 for earnest money.
So that's what I'm gonna do. Here's my offer. It's gonna be more eloquent. And the bullets. $295 with, what was it, 3,000 concessions? 3,000 in concessions
1,500 earnest.
and 1,500 earnest money. That's bullet one. Bullet two,
Fridge and doorbell.
fridge and doorbell included. And swing set excluded. What's the next one?
Close on the 6th
We're gonna close on the 6th. Where?
at the Legal Land Title Co.
Good. So now they know how much we're offering, how much we're putting down, what we seek in concessions, what we're keeping, what we're giving back, where we're closing and what day we're closing. What else do we need to tell them?
Inspection period.
Yep, is that the next one? Okay,
Contingencies.
yes. Contingencies would be our next one. So what are our contingencies?
Closing on the current property that they own.
Yep, we have a closing contingency on a property that we have got under contract. And included with that, what are we gonna need? We're gonna need the writer. So we're gonna have the writer that tells what day we went under contract and when it's expected to close. What's our next contingency? Appraisal. And then what's our next contingency?
Financing.
So our contingencies are closing on our current house, appraisal, and conventional financing. Just blah, blah, blah. And then if you've been to the contract class, we generally don't put these numbers in, especially since they're changing like every other day. So we finally got information that we could put TBD, it has to have a TBD in every line, and then all terms to be determined by lender, but exactly whatever Dawn tells you. Okay, what's our next thing that we're going to let them know? In our bullet point, our email.
Basically have 2 days for the property data. And you extended the inspection period to 15 days.
Okay, is there anything before that?
No title commitment.
Title commitment. The seller is going to deliver a buyer's title commitment as seller's clause. And the owner is going to they're gonna be an owner's policy at buyer's cost. I never explain this stuff because I have no idea what that is. I've gone to the class. It's an insurance policy that the seller buys, and there's an insurance policy that the buyer buys on the contract. I say, if you have any questions, call them and ask them what they're paying for, and they'll tell you every single time. I just say, sellers buying their part, buyers buying their part. So then, after we have the title, what's the next one?
2 days.
Yep.
Inspection 15.
2 days for property data and 15 days for inspection. And then what's the next thing?
The limitation, yeah, the limitation of inspection rights, giving the seller
Yep.
a chance to fix.
Yep. Seller's gonna have a chance to fix. And why is that important? You guys seen that line? It actually says, buyer waives its right to unilaterally terminate the contract. Buyer waives option 3 above. Buyer must give seller an opportunity to correct prior to the scheduled closing date unacceptable conditions noted by the buyer's inspection notice. Must select from 1 or 2. Why is that important?
I think basically you're just letting them know that despite what the inspection says, you're gonna give them a chance before we
Yes.
just back out.
Exactly. We're not just gonna back out as soon as we get the inspection notice and leave the transaction. We're gonna give them an opportunity to fix. So that means negotiations can happen. You don't have to, your buyer doesn't have to do that, but it's another way to get a cleaner contract. They can look at the inspection and be like, nope, I want out. And then you will have buyers that have that. Like I do not, and I actually, that was the one that I had to fire. Like we asked for 27 items to be fixed because he thought it was a pit and lied about all kinds of things. And we had checked that thing, so I couldn't walk out of the contract there. I had to go through the process of asking for all 27 things to be fixed. And they were gonna fix all 27 things, so that's right. It got ugly. So know what your buyer's threshold is. You know, if they come across something and they just don't like the inspection and they want to be able to walk out immediately, they don't want to negotiate any repairs, we need to know that because we're not going to check that box. Okay, what's our next bullet that we're going to send in the email?
Waiver of the home warranty.
Yep, no home warranty is being asked for. Anything else that we need to tell them?
Closures were received.
Yep, we have the disclosures signed and received, and we're gonna send those with our contract. Anything else?
Rider for contingency for the closure of the buyer's current property. The seller's broker, well, I didn't know whether the comp was involved in that or not, in the acceptance of the.
Yeah, just the contingency for closing, that's attached. So that just lets them know you have all of those things attached. So we send all this information to them, and that's really pretty much it. We don't have to worry about compensation. They know that they're paying for it. And then the last one is the acceptance deadline. And I didn't fill that out. So it could be next year when we get a response. And you know why? I actually forgot. I forgot to do that. So had I gone back through and looked at it one more time, I would have seen that I'm missing that. But also, as I'm going through this and I'm writing my email that I'm getting ready to send, I go, oh my gosh, I didn't put a time on this. Now I can go back and fix it before I ship it. So this is another way for you to go through your contract and make sure you have everything correct. Everything is in there that it needs to be in there. Or maybe we do want to ask for the home warranty. Let's fix that. And that means you got to send it back to your client. They got to sign it again. That's okay. Better to do it now than later. So now we have every single thing that's in that contract that's pertinent to the seller and what they need. And we're going to attach every document and we're going to send this over to them and they're going to be able to clearly and succinctly see what's in our offer without having to pour through all 6 legalese pages and find all of those things again. So again, remember, Text them and let them know if they don't already know, or send them an email or give them a call. I just sent you an offer. You've talked about sending an offer, you're gonna send an offer, I just sent you an offer. Make sure you let them know, because that way they go and look for it. If they've got time, hopefully they've got time, you should have time. And let them know that it's been sent, so that they don't go back. I mean, they may be doing their one thing and they can't get into it at that moment, but at least they know to go look for it, that it's on their way. And then make sure all your documents and command and opportunity is updated, that should be at the top, really. And then consult your buyer as soon as the listing agent responds. So that's the whole process of writing the offer. We're writing the offer, and this can be your bullet, you know, if you don't have a contract already from contract class where you have highlighted every single one of those places that you need to fill out, you need to do that. You should have in your bag, in your folder, you should have a contract with all of the places highlighted that you need to make sure you fill out every single time. That's how I proof mine. I didn't do it this one, which is why I missed that. But I literally still do that. I go back and I find my contract and I go through and look for all those highlighted spots to make sure I got them.
Do you have any like that? I can copy.
I'll find it. Have you been to the contracts class yet?
I may at least be there.
Dawn and Jim, they're great classes. Come to at least one of them. Dawn teaches buyers and sellers agency, and then Jim teaches sale contract. And you need both of them, because you need to understand what you're getting yourself into when you sign a contract with the client. Okay, so the next page is the email summary, and we've already done that. So you can see right there what it is. You can make it in your own verbiage. You can do boop, boop, boop. I literally just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's everything. Here's my attachments. Here you go. I'm gonna be so easy to work with. Let's get this done. Let's get this deal going. Let me see if I have a slide. Yes,
It says avoid rookie agent mistakes.
okay.
What's a rookie agent mistake?
So what do you think might be a rookie agent mistake?
Not doing a checklist.
Missing pieces of the contract? When are we closing? What's the price? Yeah, having that check through. Mhm.
Getting a refrigerator.
Forgetting a refrigerator. Writing, let's say you put that you're going to take 30 days for the inspection notice. Can we do that?
I mean, we could, but
But
we have
it's
to
not-
take.
You better have a 60-day close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's those little things, like missing those little things, and it happens. It's gonna happen. I do it, I still do it. I'm like, oh, like as I told them back there, I have accepted an offer on behalf of a client, not knowing whether it was contingent on something. And I'm like, oh my God, please, please, please. And then if it wasn't, I'd have to eat it. I'd have to go back and tell them, hey, we actually have a contingency on them selling their house. And so it might not be May 3rd, it might be May 30th. But this is a way to make sure, and we're gonna talk about that in the receiving part of it. It's a way to make sure that you got everything, because you get excited. You're like, oh my God, I got an offer. We're gonna go sell this house and let's go. And it's so much. The excitement overtakes our smart brain that says, read the contract. But if they were to send us this, do you know how many of these I received? 0. Which is why I make a mistake and go through. So instead, we'll do it like it teaches us. I'm gonna do my own like this for my client. Instead of calling them immediately, we have an offer, let's take it. I'm gonna read it. Okay, any ahas? That was a good section, wasn't it? Any ahas in that one?
I really like the bullet point, just to review. I mean, it's a safety check on yourself.
It is, it absolutely is. And you read it and you look at it and is that what we talked about? Making sure that it's right.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna send us, your client's gonna sign it too. You can send it to your client as well. You've already written it once. Send it to your client. These are the bullets for the contract. This is what you're agreeing to. Because you know what they're doing? What does this say? Here to and then from, and what does this contract say? Send the bullet to them. This is what you're agreeing to. And then they can send it back and they're like, oh my God, that's not what I needed. You know what I mean? And they'll fix it too. Sometimes I have clients that really are good at reading contracts. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, thanks. I'll fix that. Okay. Yeah, so it's a great way to double check yourself and make sure that you're sending the contract that they think you're supposed to be sending. Any other ahas? Let's take a 5-minute break. Let's run to the bathroom, get a drink of water, stretch, do some jumping jacks, whatever you want to do.
Pretty good.
So great. It was nice yesterday.
I know, right? Just like the yeah. And it's gonna get cold.
It's not gonna
It will.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a really good
Yeah.
one.
And we're gonna get supposedly some more snow and, which I'm nice. I'm okay with it. Also
The
very
third
nice.
pin I went through.
I've gone through a lot of pens too, I know.
I'm just ready for spring. Yeah, I'll just go right into spring. No more winter, no more groundhog, no shadow. You're bad guy.
Yeah.
Why isn't he saying? Still.
I forgot
We
it.
all know.
To look at it in the beginning, I was going to like highlight everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, he's doing just about as good a job as the weatherman, so.
Whatever.
Or have some fun with it.
Yeah. I know. And the poor groundhog too. I mean, if you've ever watched them pull it out of it, it looks so scary.
Traditions.
Yeah. No kidding.
That's one thing, like, in Springfield, like door knocking, pets, like if I see pets in the yard, that's go to speak about.
That's true. You've been door knocking?
Yes.
How's it
Yes,
going?
I went with, Sarah, she went with me, and thank goodness she did. Cause like, most of the houses were good, you know, people were just a little like, oh, someone's at the door.
Yeah.
But one, like, came out, like, I knocked and then turned around, and he came out to meet me, and he like went for a handshake. I was like, I kind of panicked and I was like, okay, well, let's do the handshake. And he does that thing where he grabs the elbow
Oh.
and he's like trying to usher me into the living room.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so and I was like, no, I can't come in. I've got other houses to door knock.
Yeah.
And she came over and I think that's when he kind of got the hint. So I was
Good.
scared.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
What day was that?
But other than that, everybody else was good.
Good.
I don't know if this one to scare you, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, now that's like solidified me and like I'm not doing an open house alone, you know, make sure like bring a family member.
Sometimes it does, but I
Yeah,
don't think it
yeah.
does
I won't
today.
go alone
I
either.
smell food in here.
I wonder if they ordered some food upstairs though.
I mean, I have, but
Had some
I
lunch.
did have a lady.
It's only
come away from
1:30.
me once.
Oh,
She
really?
was she was an Asian
Kind of
lady. She
stuff.
didn't.
Smells
like
English
chicken, but it
very
smells
well.
good.
I did see like some Chick-fil-A bags in the refrigerator, but hopefully they're not coming out of that.
Pretty sensitive now, so.
The screen door closed between us and
Okay, I think we have everybody. No, we've got one person.
she just took off running to her kitchen. And then she peeked around the wall.
This is
And I felt
great
so
class.
awkward.
Like,
You know,
something bad. Like,
This is really the first time I've had a chance to just look
I'm
over
going, I'm
this.
leaving.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, I really like that bullet point.
I
Yeah,
do
I
too.
scared her.
It made a big difference and I actually took this class.
No, the door.
Like Aries Friend with Amy Malay.
I was afraid if I
And we
opened
were
that
doing-
door, because that's
Like
the only
it
way.
was like, it was actually something that came across during the COVID to make it easier to do whatever.
See you later. I mean, I'll just
Make the offer stand out, make sure that you look like the agent that you want to work with, got it together. So
Everything matters at that point. I had some friends that bought and I shadowed Mike a little bit while they were going through that process. That was insane.
yeah,
Someone
it's
comes to my door.
Wild. I think they had
Yeah.
four,
Wanna know
they
how,
had
number
put 4 or
one.
5
Yeah.
offers and basically they put an offer gone, put an offer gone, put an
Yeah.
offer gone.
Why?
I have
Yeah.
clients that they were my second clients and I met them in June of 2021 and we bought a house in September of last year.
You know,
It took us 15 months. We were getting, they were a VA loan. They needed seller concessions, so we always had to bump the price and pray that we would get an appraisal, you know, because it was already way high anyway.
Yeah.
So it took us 15 months to get the right home for them.
That's rough.
I know, and they were living in a fifth wheel.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
I'm really.
Well, the one that I possibly have with a client, they're renting, and my biggest concern is I don't want to get them in trouble and then like have their lease done and be with all that. And it's like, I'm like terrified for them.
So scary. Well, it's really funny. I was more scared during real estate class about getting sued than I ever had during actually working on it. Because they told you like every time you get sued, you get sued for this, you get sued for this. And now I'm like, you can fix everything.
Because, you know,
Almost
kind of
everything is
everything.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Or.
It is. It really opens your eyes to that.
Yeah, it does. I didn't realize how.
Yeah, for real. It is.
I jumped into
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, being the fiduciary, keeping things quiet, you know, not sharing what we can share. You know.
Don't even know what they were. Of course, now
Yeah.
it comes up.
And some, you know, most of my clients, I'm like, just let me talk. I do better if I can talk.
You're like.
But I have one, the very first one didn't want to. Because they'll use it against him.
I bet that was a challenging one.
Yeah, it was.
He sounds a little
It
wound
was,
tight.
and he was my very first one, so I was like, I'm ready to go, I can do this, I can handle it, and it just.
Wanting to know if he wanted to sell.
And it wasn't even his loan, it was his wife's loan, he wasn't even on, I mean, they're married. I can't tell, oh my God, they would fight in front of me, like yelling at each other, it was, oh my God, so. So.
Yeah, those are always fun.
We did it twice, I mean, we went through that thing, the inspection problem twice. We were in a contract, dropped out of it, because they wouldn't fix, and even the agent, it was like $1,000 worth of fixes, it was like gutters. And
So pretty quick.
weird things, and she and I were gonna split it, and neither one of them would agree to it.
Hmm.
The seller wouldn't agree for us paying for it, and the buyer wouldn't agree to the house, and it was nonsense.
Hmm.
Okay, ready to get going? Okay, so now we're gonna put our seller's agent hat on. So now we're actually selling the house and we are going to receive and review the offer. The good news is, we already know how to do it. We already know how to review it. We already know what to do when we get it, because again, you're not gonna get very many that look like this. If you get to work with KW agents, hopefully they're doing this. If you work with me, you absolutely will get this. I can promise you that. But if not, you make it on your own, because now you know how to do it. So you're gonna check and make sure the offer is complete and contains all the necessary contract additions. If not, contact the buyer's agent and ask for the missing information. So we do need that information. Because your client has to sign it. They have to sign the seller's disclosures. Or you're the seller. They have to sign any contingency forms that are on there to be able to accept the contract. So we've got to make sure all of it's there. So before you present it, get all of those documents. Confirm receipt with the buyer's agent. Again, hopefully they've texted you and said, contract on the way, offer on the way. You receive it, received your offer. Communication, clear communication is super, super important. If you haven't talked to them, you're the seller's agent and they've not called you once to ask you whether any of these things are gonna go, that's okay. Build your rapport. Try to get into their mindset, and then you may even be able to recruit them to Keller Williams so that they can do a better job on their offers. Make sure you're asking the questions of them. So also, I'm trying to think if it's in here. Hold on just a second. Okay, I got it. Yeah. Get the offer to the seller in a timely manner. So that's out of order anywho. Get the offer to the seller in a timely manner. Ask your broker what a timely manner is. So you do want to make sure every offer that comes through, you have to present it to your client. That is the law. So don't withhold any offers, ever, ever, ever. Every offer has to be presented to them. Mark the offer as received if you need as received. So you can do that as well. Just, you can do the email back so that they have a documentation of it. And then tell them you'll follow up as needed with the time frame. So it says, create an executive summary and send it on to your client. Attach the offer again, even if you sent it immediately. So you can do that, like send it immediately, that way they've got it. And then tell them we're gonna talk about this at 1 o'clock. Or whatever time, when is good for us to talk about this contract? Because you want them to have it in hand. It's nice. It says you've done your job, you got an offer, but we're gonna talk about it at this time. Because that's really exciting for the seller to have something in hand that someone's made an offer. Okay, so one of this was kind of out of order. It says, create an executive summary and send it to your client. Then it says, call the buyer's agent to gather more information. So I would probably do that first to gather the more information before I present it to my client. Especially if you've not talked. Because remember, like I said, if they've not called and talked to you yet, you're gonna do the reverse now. You're the seller's agent and you're gonna reverse questions with the buyer's agents. Introduce yourself and thank the agent for the offer. How long have the buyers been looking? Have your buyers been pre-approved by a lender? If there is not one attached, so that's a good opener for if they don't have the pre-approval. Do they have a pre-approval letter? If they don't, not a whole lot we can do. Because you're not even contingent yet. You don't even have a finance yet. So we're not gonna do that. Do the buyers have a home to sell? Why did they select this property? Have the buyers seen the property or is it sight unseen? How did the buyers determine their price? Have the buyers made offers on other properties? If so, what happened in those negotiations? Have your buyers worked with their lender before? What should I know about the buyer? So those are questions that you can ask, and that way you've got clarity around the offer. Because if they came in and they offered 30 less than what we listed, now we know why. And instead of you giving them, you talk about it, and then your client goes, why did they offer 30 less? They go, I don't know. That's what they wanted to do. Now we actually know. We know what I called the listing or the buyer's agent, and this is what they said. And so now you can have a really great conversation. Maybe they did comps that said so-and-so and so-and-so. But you know what, maybe the buyer's agent and I need to get together and talk about our comps and figure out if there's someplace to go. But there's always negotiation. You can counter, send another one back. We have these comps that say this. But have that information ready. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. So I don't want to say that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I don't know, but let me find out and then follow up. You've got to follow up. That's like the keyest part of that is you've got to get the answer to them and get them what they need to know. So you can say, I don't know. I'm not going to say all day long because that sounds bad, but you can say, I don't know. I'll find out for you. So then once we know, we're going to create the summary. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we did as a buyer's agent for the seller's agent. We're going to do this for our buyer. And so we're going to create this whole thing. We're going to send it as the recap to them. And then we're going to talk about it in our meeting so they understand each part of it. Because just because we wrote it doesn't mean they understand what it is. What does that mean? What does contingent to close on their house mean? And the thing is it doesn't say it that succinctly in the contract. It's got a lot of here to's and therefores in it. So we're going to explain that to them. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So if allowed in the area, which I'm sure it is. I don't think I've ever had this issue. Call the lender and verify the pre-approval letter. Introduce yourself to the lender. Ask those questions. Income, assets, and credit been verified. So, you know, there's a difference between pre-qualified and pre-approved. Qualified means they've done the periphery test to make sure that they have a good credit score. They say they have an income and it meets the requirements and their debt to income is okay. That is qualified. Approved means they have actually already gone under underwriting. They have verified employment. They have seen W-2s. They've done all of those things and they are ready to go. So those are two different things. So you can call the lender and find out where they are in that process.
Cassie, I think it was Don who said something that just was really simplified with that. He said, like pre-qualified is, I think you'll be approved. Pre-approved is you are approved.
Yes.
And so in my head, that's how I like remember the difference and which one I'm really looking for.
Yeah. And it'll even say, it'll say it on the approval letter, whether it's an authorization or approval, it'll say, you know, very distinctly what it is. But I like to call too, because this is the person now you're gonna be working with. And so again, making sure you get that rapport, you wanna know as many lenders as possible and you want them all on your side because you want them to do whatever they can to get this to close. So if you are as amiable as you can be and you're as productive and as helpful as you can be, they're gonna be on your side and get you that way. So when you call and ask those questions, they're gonna know you're on it and you're ready to go. You're also gonna filter those those lenders out that are not. So if they can't answer these questions, hey, buyer's agent, they don't know what's going on with your client. Do you want a name of another lender real quick? Because they can qualify him right then. You know, before we go into contract, do you want to talk to somebody else and see if somebody else can make sure that you get where you need to be? So those are all good things to do. Contingent, we already know if the home would be contingent on a sale. Have you worked with this buyer's agent before? Have you worked with this buyer before? So those are the questions for your lender. Have you worked with these people before? Here's a really good one. Are you aware that the buyer has given an appraisal gap of blah? Can you confirm they have cash to cover this amount in addition to down payment, closing costs, and other expenses? So this was really prevalent last year. Someone put a house on the market for $210,000. I want to offer $250,000 because that's going to get it through. But I'm gonna have an appraisal contingency. So that saves me. Well, then people got very wise to that. And so maybe it came in at 220. And then the buyer or the seller got 220, not 210, not 250, they got 220. So then came the appraisal gaps. So it didn't get quite so crazy, but maybe it was offered at 210 and I'm going to write an offer for 225. And I will do an appraisal gap of $10,000 up to 225. So that means that if it came in at 220, I would give $10,000, or I would give $5,000. So if it came in at 220, I would put an extra $5,000 to get it to 225. Does that make sense? But if they do have an appraisal gap, the lender may not know that they've done that. Do they have enough money to do that? And you do have to have that in the contract. We're not going to have that so much now. So make sure you keep that in the back of your head. So when it happens again, about appraisal gaps, but you do want to make sure that they've got that funding in place, that were to happen. Okay, when you speak to your sellers, have an outline of the important items. We already have it because we've done it. And go over them and go over anything that you've learned in the lenders and the buyer's agent conversation. So anything that you found out and go over all of those things. So that, because remember, we're taking an offer, we're receiving one. So we want to find out whether this is going to be the most conducive to our transaction. Go over the contract terms and the deadlines. Estimate a net proceeds. Have you guys done one of those yet? How much money the seller's going to make? There's actually a proceed sheet that you can do, which is going to give the price of the home, how much their closing cost estimates are going to be, like paying their taxes, their prorated taxes, paying if they were buying a, their concessions, how much their mortgage is left. So it's really telling them how much commissions coming off, tells them how much they're going to net. So if they have a $300,000 house, they owe $200,000. There's $100,000 difference, and then they're going to pay their concessions out of that. They're going to pay their closing costs out of that. They're going to pay their commissions out of that, and then what's left over. So that is super important so that they can see the end result. Because if there's concessions on one, but not like one offered 10,000 over with 5,000 in concessions, and one offered 7,000 over, which one's better? No concessions on the 7,000. 7,000 is better, right? By $2,000. So by doing that, by doing those net sheets, you can see, because everybody just goes to that top number. Oh, well, this one offered 210. This one only offered 27, but there's math in there, and we've got to be able to do that for them. Pros and cons of the offer as you see them. So just making sure they understand what each thing means. So if there is a contingency on sale or a contingency on close, what that can mean, could be a delay in close. Are we prepared for that? Are we okay with that? Because maybe they have a house that they're buying. So what if we have a contingent for sale here and then they have a contingent for sale here, and then they have a contingent for sale here. What happens if this one goes bad? All of these fall apart. So we've got to make sure that we are okay with that. All sides are okay with those things. And we may get to a point where one of them isn't. And so everything stops. So what happens if we get like literally, this is the first one. This is not the first one. This is the first one. So if this one falls apart, now this one can't buy the home, now he can't sell his home, and now this person can't buy this home, and now this person can't sell that home. I mean, that gives me goosebumps. That like scares me to death, but it's possible. And more in this market than it was before. And then we have our options to respond to the contract. We've got accept, reject, and counter. We talked about that earlier. And then if they're doing a good job, if it's a reject, they're gonna call you and find out if there's something we can do. You know, are we just too far apart? Or, I mean, sometimes they'll say that, we're just too far apart. Well, are you sure? Where are they at? And if they say, no, we're at 220 and you offered 190. Okay, so you want 220. That is it. That is your bottom line, 220. And then you go back and tell your client, it's 220. Do you want it at 220? And either they do or they don't. But if they say, well, they 210, but they thought that was too far. I mean, it's $20,000, but maybe it's not too far. And you don't know until you ask. So you've got to ask and find out whether we can get there. Sometimes the negotiations drop down and people get very stubborn, like, nope, I don't want anything to do with it. They've already made it hard. I don't want anything to do with it. Okay. Why don't you think about it for a little bit? Because that's our first response. If someone shuts us down, never mind, I don't want you. I don't like you. Go away. But then, you know, and I've done it, you've done it. Oh, I really would like that. Like if someone offers you a cookie and you're like, no.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
And then maybe like, you're like, hey, you still have those cookies? So it's not no forever. So we just want to find out. Okay, so the next page is doing the exact same thing, not even in reverse. It is the exact same thing. We've got the summary for presenting that offer, and we're going to show them what that is. And we know exactly how to do it. No different. And then, like I said, you'll use, if they send you one, then you don't have to do anything. It's already ready to go. How great would that be? How great would, you're offering that to them and they're gonna be able to just copy and paste it, hopefully. Hopefully they don't try to reinvent the wheel and go do something, try to read it to them. But it's ready to go. It just makes it so easy and so simplified. And I will tell you too, you will start to understand the contract so much better. Once you've written this many, many times and you've read it over and over again, you'll understand it better. I'll go back and read the contract still too and go, oh, what does that mean? And that happens in every class, you know, because they change things, they'll change wordage or something like that. And I'll forget and I'll call Don and I'm like, what does this mean? When it says blah, 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 blah. And he'll explain it. I'm like, oh, I've been signing this thing. So go back and read it every once in a while because you'll forget. But this will make it a lot easier because you're understanding what those paragraphs are about. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we are going to role play with a partner and you are going to now, I don't have it all written down. I hope you guys all wrote it down. You're going to bullet point. You're going to go over the offer you received and tell your client the offer that you just received. Now, if you want to real quick, you can write your bullet points down from your contract because you're just going to use the same contract. So you can write your bullet points down and then you are going to role play how you present this contract to them, this offer to them. Okay, this will take a little bit longer because you're going to write your bullet points again. But literally, Emmy and Oscar are gonna, Oscar's gonna say, Emmy, we got a contract, we got an offer. Let's go, it's so exciting. I think you should take it. No, that's not what we do. Go over all the points of it.
You want me to go first?
So. How you did. So I've spoken with to send the contract to you. And, or we've received your contract, sorry.
And we see that.
Are you mine?
We are sellers agents. We are presenting the offer to our sellers. So this residential contract was sent to you and it is the offer to your sellers that you are presenting to them.
So I've received the contract from the buyer. And they've given us the purchase price of $295,000 with $3,000 of concession. And they've. They are wanting the greater and the ring to stay. And this will be. They are wanting to close by the 6th of February. So the contingent of them close. And that.
Sorry, $100.
They're utilizing a conventional loan. I wrote. So, oh, okay, that.
That's just what the sellers.
Okay, so they have the conventional financing and they're, we're doing basically
My buyer fixed it. He revised it.
they are wanting to close at the legal limit. They're giving us 2 days.
That was awesome, by the way.
And they've
Would it be?
before for them, you know what that is? So whenever we go
I shower when we
and there are, they did.
Yeah, so it's not.
Sorry, I'm trying to think.
Well, I was totally impressed with it.
They basically waive their right to exit the contract.
Wait. If we do 295, I think we should.
But they do not have a home warranty. They did receive all of their disclosures and writer of tendencies. And disclosure of their current property. So how does all of that look?
It was a rookie shot. He didn't.
Okay, so that, so right there.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
Oh, ask her about that.
So this contract, pretty much what I'm saying is that he's contingent on the seller.
It was proposing the house, which I really read.
What do you see with it? I seen that earlier.
It was shot. It was the original house that was built.
That was a really good question.
So, It was like roughly half or like somewhere around.
This doesn't matter, they're not cash, and there's no.
And there's only a 4-year warranty.
It's not.
And I don't know if it's a marketing.
It's not a government loan.
Selling, replace everything.
I doubt
So I
that.
said replace everything. I wasn't sure. That's just be my.
Six.
And then the AC, my bike, and then summer it was like basically.
Essentially, they were like an inspection. It's pretty much the buyer's pay. They're required to sign, you require like tax.
Yeah.
So you have 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, Yeah, sorry.
I'm the seller, Oscar.
So they have 2 days to eliminate.
I like, all we're doing is killing ourselves. But we're having fun.
Section.
I would too.
Because you're getting ready to say like, so I'm gonna make you remember. You're gonna look at me and go, why are you doing this? So,
Or I guess we like.
Killing the.
And then all of a sudden,
because otherwise I could remember all that. Somebody was sitting there telling that to me, and they're like, so what do you think? I think you gave me too much information.
So I got replaced my friend.
So, maybe I'm over. Maybe the initial list price was $300. So then that situation improved these guys.
Now, actually, really, yeah, it can be.
Because, for example, just in this case, that wine that we got on $98,500.
Yeah. So I guess I would probably say,
And nobody notices it till I show it to them. Look at that.
that would bring it
I
down
don't
to
remember.
95. Yeah, we talked about both things. And then, obviously, yeah. So when you put. You know, and he's like, well, that really is trying to work out. And I was like,
Let's see, that's some of your experience, I can tell. Keen observation.
Like, that's supposed to be for a pool house.
What's
So I'm
that?
like, what do I really want? All I do is go out there.
But it's up to you.
You don't know what they were.
So, I know, but I also wanted to, you know, because like, it's that half moon, so during our party, it was like. We're gonna stay for 6 hours.
And re-inspect it.
Yeah.
You know, that
Yeah.
because you couldn't tell how much, that was brilliant, you couldn't tell them that.
I called the separate.
Yeah.
The place had been treated for termination. By the front step and all. Is what I remember.
Okay, and that's the reason why it's
Very.
You're not the first person.
This guy.
So let's go. Purchase price, earnest money, first thing was $295.
Are bothering them.
I will, actually,
Like, I literally have, I bought.
and then 200.
So, yeah, because I have.
So I think I got for you. When it comes to like, there's a lot of boundaries. So it's pretty much the same.
I'm gonna have like.
So that's what I'm not gonna tell them.
Yeah. Plus it's got the outside, so they can go out that door and then just like.
Now,
I need to shut the door, so that way they're, that way the living room and the
I'll let
dining
them
room,
know. Yes.
they can like be joint free. And I'm gonna be like, listen, this is for hardcore.
He did it.
don't break anything. Yeah. But it'll be a safe zone.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, safe word,
Okay,
safe
sorry, I thought we were
zone
just
for.
reversing. On the role play.
Okay. So
Start
we're
bagging
gonna
on
close
tea.
at-
You start bagging on tea.
On
You start calling the names.
Okay, and so then it would be going to the fire. I like that.
So when it comes to.
Pushing. That's a good thing.
You can say back play. Look, it's-
So.
You know, what just hit me like, I start sweating and it makes me nervous because he doesn't have stuff like that. And this contract developer would be stopping for the time, but you have to.
There was another.
And, it's absolutely.
So I mean, if people are gonna.
Right, it's just saying the same.
There's a guy that sat, I sat there and
It's gonna happen in one house, like you said.
Remember, this for last, we're going to.
okay, that would have been.
Where they'll be
That's the first time.
So would you, if you should have raised her?
Thank you.
I can give you room if you guys.
Motivated. Everywhere.
Yeah, but remember we looked at all the.
How long, I'm not trying to be nosy, how long?
Bowls, they're like wax, so we can put like your cheeses and like cheese dip and on high.
Right off the bat.
Okay, I'm gonna do everything.
Yeah. Squeeze balls and that. I might even bring Bob.
How many 12? Well, anyways, it's like you should go like interview them, and so like I think.
Like a-
those times, like,
Every time in the hospital. Pretty much.
I've heard outside, but the Eagle jersey.
Because she would have wished for that super.
So like, I interviewed her, I wanna join, she's like, great, we like.
If they decide they don't no longer want it, then they don't contract. And they do.
Are you on?
I'm in.
Okay.
And then they also have 15 days for the inspection notice, and they're gonna provide their own home warranty, so that will be an issue on your part.
What's this?
Not really, I have a
I
side.
didn't have it pulled up. I'm not there yet.
I'm not trying to.
I called him, I was like, hey, can I email this to you? He goes, no, I'm too busy. I said, okay. And he's like, what's this?
Oscar, stay and roll. You gotta remember what your role is. Exactly.
And they're also waiving their rights.
Yeah.
I said, I feel weird that you're listening.
I'm not listening.
Okay, so they're also waiving their rights.
Dodge the bullet.
I totally got the bullet, because I would have been.
Okay. And then, like I said earlier about the FOCs and, oh, that's for
I know when I was so like.
Three. Well, you said that, I just, I didn't follow.
I remember. He called.
That just says that they still don't get that Zoom.
Oh,
I mean, that's pretty much about it. We're giving them to the end of the day tomorrow.
That makes me nervous.
So then after that, we're gonna expand the list prior to the meeting. So how much is that? The buyer said that they will accept coffee as it's like. I'll send it to you. Yeah, I don't know that we're thinking about
See,
not
the
needed, you
scene.
don't even stretch yourself out.
So here's another question.
You know,
That you have for your company.
pay
So
$500
are you doing it?
And we already have, I think so, let me, we should be something is on, or, well, I was going to email it to you. Yeah, did you get my invite? I know, that's why I like.
And, Well, what I was thinking, you put it to.
This is just.
I am never starting.
Our,
Yeah.
But and then, you know, we don't have to contribute towards the buyer's cost. They have us added on their own. It's kind of hard to hear. And they will also put $100 down for a 10-day option
It's
period.
a long process. I think it's
You know, and then
because
that
obviously,
refrigerator, stove, dishwasher, you know, I know you're thinking about whether it's
Maybe a little harder to make money,
yeah,
but.
Yeah, I mean, it's a short.
right.
Yeah.
And so in that
You
market.
deserve a nice
very,
food
very
anyway.
expensive.
You're
Might not
right.
have time to spend
You're
it.
enjoying it. Just buy it.
It's just for me to me, it doesn't matter. But then
Now,
we'll
with
take a
the-
little
with the
wait
sales
time
price,
to make sure that I'm doing this. If it's the best.
Your
But I didn't know.
estimated net proceeds should be 211,500, not including
So it's how much division.
mortgage payoffs. It's a good number.
So.
I started.
But we'll talk soon again and I'll have the offer pulled up, you know. Make sure you look
Like,
over it just one
It
more
was
time.
starting to
make sure it's all
decline, but we
good,
were
and
still
we'll get
like
this
right
going.
there in June of last year. And so I
Because
had.
when I-
We have
February,
15
and then I
days.
was
If it's
doing
measured.
contract, I had no idea what to do.
You have
So
15
thankfully,
days.
this was just, you gotta change this, change this. And then it wasn't until I actually went to the contract that I started understanding what this meant.
Their
And
buyer was
without
there,
being-
obviously.
I was
And they were all.
You know, I was just getting on the lease,
Yeah.
before you if it was right or wrong.
The hardest part about this is you're literally walking something that's quite complex.
Yeah.
You just-
They got it together.
You go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and talk about that. How did you guys feel about that? What was your about it, Oscar?
Not being fluid enough.
Okay, what do you think would help you be better?
Review it more.
Review it more?
Yes.
Okay, I think that's excellent. I think anytime that you can look at a contract and practice with it and write it down, I think that, so how many people wrote down their bullets so they could talk about it? This is just one. How did yours go through when you went through yours?
I cleaned it up a little bit the second time.
Okay, okay,
It was a little rough the first time.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, your first, it's your first
That's why you roll it.
view, yeah. So do you guys think it would have been easier if you'd have bullet pointed it and kind of read through your bullet points rather than trying to read the contract? Do what you want to do. I'm just giving you suggestions. It does make it easier. It makes it easier for them to read. Was there anything as you were going through it that you had trouble describing? Oh, what was
We had
that?
a few things that I really did not know what it was talking about. We figured out the first one, and that was about the survey. And in the contract, it does state that the buyer has to obtain that at their expense.
Mhm.
But the next one was buyer will put $100 for a 10-day option period. I have no idea what that 10-day.
Is that
option
in
period-
G? Oh, were you going through, hold on just a second.
We were using this like summary.
Oh, you were
over
using
here.
that one? Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's, we don't have that.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that was, yeah, the standard contract from there. Yeah, no, we don't have a fee for an option period.
Okay.
Anything else that you guys couldn't explain? Inspection notice, contingencies, where you felt like you were stumbling through it? Good. So we talked about everything today. So we talked about the offer process and what it takes to get the offer going. We talked about preparing for the offer and what's the biggest thing that you got from preparing the offer? Do you remember?
Question.
Asking questions. Yeah, get that rapport with the seller's agent, ask those questions, and that's gonna get you to the best offer. It's gonna get you to the best ending point. Then we're gonna write the offer. And again, going through it, making sure that you've got your blank copy right next to you, so you know what you're writing in. But you've had that conversation with your buyer that you know everything that we're going to do, and you've already talked to the seller, so you know what they should accept. So we're gonna write that, and then we're gonna present the offer. And then we all kind of talked about the bullet points. I can't recommend this enough. I'm gonna tell you, this makes a huge, huge difference because it's just so clean and so easy and so accessible that your seller's agent's gonna appreciate it, even if they don't tell you. I guarantee you they're going to appreciate it. Receive and response. So we switched sides and we did the as a seller. And we talked about the same thing, going through and bullet pointing that offer that they sent to us and being able to pull out all the information that our seller needs to have in order to make a good decision and make their response. If it's rejected, is that no?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. And it depends on you, depends on your client. I mean, there's a lot of things in there, so we gotta figure out how it's possible to get that from the no, from the rejection to a possible yes. So in your notebook, it does say turn ahas into achievement. How has your thinking changed today? That's the first question. With offers, writing them and receiving them.
Building the relationship with the agent and asking questions, I think that goes a long way in getting the offer accepted.
I agree. Yeah, it's huge, and it's like a secret sauce that only a few people know and even fewer are using. But if you went to negotiations, that was a big part of it, asking questions in the negotiations and how to do that. So it's huge. It's huge from every perspective, just creating relationships with another agent, helping your client move further along, letting them know what you've done. I mean, sometimes people don't know what we actually do as real estate agents. I didn't even know, when I started, I had no idea what we did. And it's hard to explain it unless you kind of have this whole thing where you're having these conversations and I talked to the seller and I found out this and I did this and we negotiated this. It's a good way to brag on yourself about what you're doing for your client, but it's literally what you do. It's hard to like summarize our job description. We don't have a true job description that we hand our client whenever we meet them, kind of tell them what we're gonna do, but there's a whole lot of things that we don't put words to in description. So having those conversations is huge. What do you feel differently about today? Or what do you feel differently about in writing your contracts?
Feel a little bit more prepared.
Good, that's excellent. That's excellent. How do you guys feel a little more prepared? Like it makes a little more sense of what you're going to be doing, the process? It's still a big process. I take it very, very seriously when I'm writing the contract and I'm nervous and I'm scared I'm gonna leave something out. And so these are just ways to help prevent that scaredness of I left this out or I forgot to do this. These are ways that are gonna help you get across that threshold. How will your behaviors be different going forward when it's time to make your offers or receive your offers for your client?
I hate to be a broken record, but asking the questions, bullet pointing to double check myself and get things clear.
Good. Anybody else? You're just gonna say same? You gotta say it or you're not gonna do it. There. And if you need help, we're all here to help you. Everybody's here to help you. If you need help, like figuring out what to say to the client, if you get an offer in that you're like, I don't know how to say this, and I didn't want to say it in class, and now I got to say it. Because Amy, what happened to you? You went to an open house and I have to write a contract.
Yeah.
It happens.
That's me about everything. I'm like, wait, how do I say this?
Well, it's gonna happen. You're gonna get your first offer. You're gonna go, I have my first offer. Oh my God, what did Cassie say? I have no idea. Yeah. So you're gonna call me and we'll go, okay, let's make our bullet points. Let's do our bullet points first. And you're go, oh yeah, I got it. That's what we're gonna do, every one of you. Okay, so almost the same question, but what tools, models, or systems are you gonna use and how they're gonna make you accountable?
Checklist.
Checklist.
Yes.
I love a good checklist anyway. Love a good checklist. But also, I mean, your notebook here, This is amazing. It literally like every step of the way, what do I need to do now? Oh, I forgot my CMA. We go do my CMA.
Yeah.
So you've got this right here that's gonna get you every step of the way. And of course you can ask questions, but it feels really good to do it on your own. Like, I can do this, I'll figure this out. And then you're gonna get to a point that is really beyond you. I don't know what that means, and it's a legal thing or whatever, but these checklists are right here for you. So I would say bookmark them, highlight them, pull them out, put them in your purse or your back pocket, whatever you need to do so that it is there and you're ready to go. Put it in your command. Put this in your command and have it on there. And then what Brian Fisher does, he has a checklist on his command. And so it's right there, every step of the way of what he has to do. Until like it's ingrained in you, but I feel like I will never have ingrained, like I'm always gonna have something that reminds me to get this done correctly. Good. Okay, well, that is it for receive and make and receive offers. I always say it wrong. Make and receive offers. Any other last ahas that you guys have? Ask questions, make a bullet point. Read the contract.
Yeah, this was super helpful.
Go to contract
Thank you so
class.
much.
Yep.
It was very helpful.
Good, all right.
Let's go to thank you. Good stuff, right, guys? I'd have to say, this many years later, I still get nervous when we write a contract, write an offer on something, because I don't want to forget something important, right? And I think the best thing that I've done to combat that is I continue to go to contracts classes and I continue to read through every single line of this. And that's really the only thing that makes me more confident, so that I can get somebody in my group coaching's offer and I can look at it and within 3 minutes, I can tell you what you're missing. Because just every day, just read it and understand it, and then ask questions if you don't understand it. And really, it's not as scary as one would think it is then. So, yes, sir.
Is that contract like the contract that I'm gonna do for every house? Is that like okay?
Yep, it'll be different for land. There's a land one.
And commercial is different.
Commercial's
Just a
different,
little,
but
just a
figure
little.
that out. But yeah, so this will be the same. Refer to Cassie, I don't know. It'll be the same contract, but what's important is every year they do make changes and they call them red line changes. And so whenever you know that they're redoing the contract or doing something, make sure you're at that team meeting, because they'll give you the quick version. And make sure you go to that month's contracts classes with the broker, because they'll go through and say what those changes mean. It's always to add more value to the contract and to protect either the buyer or the seller better. So, cool. Awesome, guys. All right, I'm gonna shut off the Zoom and then we can do our daily successes.